Okay, so whether you're a leader interested in strategic innovation, or if you are a student or a designer interested in learning how to innovate with speed and simplicity, or if you're a startup interested in learning your value and opportunity in the marketplace, then these videos are for you. My name is Bernard Schockman, and I'm coming to you from the east coast of Australia on the border between two particular regions. One is called the Gold Coast, Australia, Queensland, and the other is called Northern Rivers. Okay, so today I want to talk to you about actually building the design, building the billboard, the design thinking billboard. Now, recall from the previous video that the billboard piece fits in, when it comes to talking about design sprints, it fits in the day 1 and 2. So there are typically specific activities that you can do in those in that day 1 and 2, according to the sprint book. But there are so many other things that you could do. There are so many other methodologies, processes, procedures, and there are so many different toolkits and tools you can use and methods you can use. So you literally have an infinite number of ways you can go about driving to a solution. I want to discuss the billboard you see on a number of these videos and just walk you through how we did that, because this is a good taster on how to put billboards together. So let me tell you how we put that design sprint together, that taster. So at the start of an engagement, we will typically want to know more about the challenge or the problem statement that the client is wanting to solve. And from there, we will start to articulate, well, what are the particular pieces we could sequentially line up to actually drive towards that solution. So in this case, actually one thing to bear in mind with when it comes to these billboards, and these billboards are typically on an A0 sheet of paper, and they are printed out and stuck on a wall, and a team will sequentially work through one exercise after the other. One thing to bear in mind is that the order that you put these pieces in makes a huge difference, because the previous piece, when you're looking at a previous piece and the next piece, the previous piece or the current piece you're working on actually frames up the next piece you're about to work on. And the next piece you're about to work on compounds the previous piece's information or data. So it's good practice to be very mindful about how you arrange these pieces. The workshop, what are all the things that cause network congestion? And then what we did was we employed a technique called dot voting, or what they call note and vote, where you throw your post-it notes up, you have your say, and then based on a series of votes that you can have, you can only choose a subset of those. So in good design thinking practice, we are collecting all of the information and then scoping it down, the divergent stack. So the particular post-it note that got the most amount of votes, we brought into the second step in this billboard. And what we did was we placed it at the center. Now, this is a typical, what we would typically use as a stakeholder map, but we've used this instead to understand what are other contributors to that problem, because is this actually the problem we should be solving? So in this exercise, participants actually put their, what have we got there? Direct influences and indirect influences on the primary problem we think we're solving, because there could be another problem that is a lower hanging piece of fruit that we should actually be going after. So this is another way to look at a particular problem with multiple perspectives. Once we actually dot vote on those problems and understand, okay, this is actually the problem we want to solve, then it's a case of understanding, well, who's having that problem? And this is where the third step comes in to this billboard. Understanding who is the persona or the personas behind that billboard. And there are typical steps you do with the persona, and you can see some of those listed in that particular billboard. What solutions are there out there, or what solutions could we create to solve that problem? And this is where the same dot voting technique, or the note and vote technique, comes into play, where participants put up their ideas on post-it notes, and at the end of that session, they get to dot vote on a subset of those. So again, collecting all the information, but scoping it down into a smaller subset. And finally, of course, now that we understand all the particular solutions, there's another step we could have done here. We could have identified all the different features that solution would have, which would then go into, I guess, day 3 day 2 and day 3 of a particular sprint, which would be sketching that solution. And this is the final stage we did in this particular billboard. Now, bear in mind, this was just a taster. It was 2 hours. So we had, I think, roughly about 8 or 9 teams of 5 to 6 people at a table. And each particular group was working on a particular billboard design to get their minds across how does design thinking work, how could a sprint work, and how do we bolt techniques together to actually drive to a result. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. How do you put that billboard together? And I'll be back tomorrow to talk about another piece of design thinking design.